Hello and welcome to The Experience, the podcast where we explore the unique stories and insights of people who are making a difference in their own special ways. I'm your host, Steve Hartman. Now, before I introduce my guest this week, if you find value and entertainment in this podcast, please hit the like and subscribe button. Also, click on the bell icon so you can be notified when a new episode is released. And of course, feel free to tell your friends about this channel. And now let's get down to the good stuff. My guest tonight is Linda Patterson. She is the owner and founder of herbsandAromatics.org. Linda's passion for natural wellness and her dedication to sharing the benefits of herbs and aromatics have created a space where people can learn, connect, and grow. Her journey is rooted in care, community, and a deep respect for the natural world. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Linda 25 years ago when this podcast was produced in a very different medium, public access television. It's come a long way, and I'm excited to have her on The Experience in its newest incarnation to share her perspectives on how the beauty that grows around us can make a difference in our lives today. So, Linda, thank you so much for being here and coming on the show as my camera goes away. And here I am. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's such a treat to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's incredible after 25 years coming back together to do some really good recording together again.
And, you know, before we were live in a studio in Fitchburg, Mass., and now we're doing this through the technology of the day. Who would have thought?
Right. There was no internet before.
Or there was very, very slow internet before.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, let's get started. So tell everybody about you. How did you become interested in aromatherapy?
Well, I love plants. I've always loved plants, and I wanted to study every aspect that I could about plants, the physiology of plants, healing properties of plants, the healing properties of their oils, as well as their healing properties of their flower essences, So it's really an amazing journey to be able to immerse myself in all the aspects possible, as well as hardscaping, landscaping, gardening, and all of the really relaxing activities of outside play with plants.
Well, some people might not think landscaping is so much relaxing, but it depends, I guess, on the landscaping that you're doing. Now, how long have you been practicing aromatherapy?
Oh my goodness, I was counting it up. I hate to date myself, but I'm getting close to almost 40 years of, studying and working with plants. So it's been an honor to be on this journey as long as I have, and to be able to continue teaching people about all of the healing properties of plants.
Now, do you remember the moment that you said, this is what I want to do?
I think it sort of infiltrated my life a little slower than that, So when I was a child, my mother made me weed the gardens, which of course as a child I hated.
Your first experience in landscaping.
Yeah, my first experience. And my mother being Korean, she was always taking plant medicine. So I think even as a child, those seeds were sown into me. And I think that they're very deep in my DNA. And so it was in my early 20s that I started to really realize, which I feel fortunate that I started studying herbs so young in life. I really feel it's allowed me to take it to a very deeper place.
Now, was there anything that, I don't know, surprised you during this journey while learning about the plants and what they have to offer us?
Yeah, I think the brilliance of the plants really is what's astounding to me. We as humans think we're so smart because we have language, and we sometimes believe that just because other things don't speak the same language we do, they're not as smart or as clever as we are. But they've really been on the planet for, millennials, longer than we have.
A lot longer than us, yeah.
Yes. And so they are much more evolved than we are. And I think it's profound how even when science can't find things to help people, plants can come to the rescue. I think that is so heroic of the plants to just continuously give their unbelievable healing to us.
And we're constantly learning. I don't know if you've ever seen this video that goes around, but there are people or I've seen two different people do this. They've attached little electrodes to the leaves of the plants, and you hear their energy in musical tone. So these are truly magical beautiful things that are growing around us. And we barely know a small percentage of what they can offer us. And I think
It's
that's quite amazing.
Yeah, they definitely have a voice, and we just haven't been able to tune into their frequency. I think flower essences comes the closest when you can really hear what they have to offer. If you can open yourself up that way, it's
Yeah.
very special.
And we're going to get into this, but I thought of this in the car actually this morning about how when we talk about aromatherapy, aroma, the sense of smell, is the only sense that actually I would say would be the most powerful because it triggers so many things within us. A scent can trigger our taste, it can trigger our emotional remembrances, but I don't know any other scent that is so connected with our sense of taste that other than aromas. You smell an apple pie, you taste that apple pie. If you smell chili, you taste that chili. You smell dandelions, you can taste that dandelion. It's like there's a powerful connection between the two senses, unlike any other senses that we have.
Yeah, taste is about 85% aroma. And it's the same in the opposite direction. If you're so congested and trying to enjoy that apple pie, you won't be able to taste it. Yeah.
I think that's the only two senses that kind of work like that. They're kind of like symbiotic in that way, I would say. Getting to that main topic, what would you say are the main benefits for aromatherapy?
Well, I think, because essential oils are lipid soluble, meaning they bond to fat cells, and our whole respiratory tract is lined with fat cells, unlike almost any other medicine, natural medicine out there, even herbs, as much as I love them and they work incredibly well and profoundly well, they still have to go through the digestive system before they get to the problematic system. Whereas essential oils, if you do a steam with essential oils or you have a really good diffuser, they go and they kill infection on contact. So if you have sinusitis and you do a steam, the essential oils can get in there and kill on contact, as well as laryngitis, bronchitis, any of those respiratory ailments. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of essential oils.
And how would I know there are some, at least last time we spoke, you gave experience as far as using an oil, or not an oil, a cream as a bonding element for the oil to apply to the skin because some of it is, you wouldn't want to actually apply it directly to the skin without having that medium suppressing it. Now, have we come farther along the way as far as essential oils that can be cooked with or added in such a way that in small amounts it's effective without having that's safe to use internally?
Well, I think there's an old saying that I learned when I was a plumber, and that is the solution to pollution is dilution. Depending upon what you're working with, if it's extended far enough and if it's in a lipid, I think it could be safe. But again, a lot of people, the new fad is to just ingest oils. And I've met a lot of people who have tried them and it's made them very ill. So I think that if they can burn the top of your skin, then what could they do to your stomach lining, which is much more delicate than our skin? And then over time, what would it do to the liver? So I'm not against, you know, playing a little bit. Like sometimes I'll put a little bit of ginger essential oil in the water when I'm steaming kale or collards, right? And it's just enough to add a little of that delicious Asian flavor to it, but it's not really applying the oils to the kale. Does that make sense?
It does, and I have to be honest here. Now, I'm a big fan of adding juiced ginger in a natural juicing. I mean, I garlic and ginger are my two go-to things. You could put as much garlic on anything, and ginger, if it's fresh juice, you can double shot that ginger up and stuff like that. Now, I'm assuming that juicing ginger is a tad bit different than ingesting like a ginger essential oil, but hi, how much?
Substantial, because ginger is incredibly watery. So the amount of essential oil you're going to get out of a juiced ginger root is going to be so minimal. If you smelt the essential oil of ginger, it's quite harsh, to be honest with you. you would not want to ingest it. In fact, when I teach with it, most people are turned off by it because it does not smell like the fresh fruit.
All right, that's good to know because I went through my ginger kick and I would always get double ginger and it, man, it's got a kick and it sends a jolt down your spine, but that's good to know. Now, what would you say would be the most commonly used essential oils and for what benefits?
So I think the queen of essential oils is lavender. And I talk when you say what's like some of the most important ways to use essential oils. I mean, the respiratory tract is incredible because of course if you can't breathe you will die. And I use the essential oils through the whole COVID epidemic with huge success, keeping people off respirators and being able to allow them to breathe. But the olfactory system is also just as huge because the amount of oils that help with stress is striking. It sort of goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. Essential aroma is our strongest memory trigger. So if we can, and there's a system, it's a mechanism called the lock and key response that happens with aroma in the brain. And what they've proven is that aroma plus emotion plus experience equals memory. So if you can set up those three things, you can create the lock and key response in the brain. So an example of that would be going for a full body massage, getting a custom made blend for that massage, and then being massaged with this aroma that you've never smelt before because it's custom made. So now you have the aroma, you have the experience of being nurtured, and the emotion of being really relaxed. So then if you take that bottle of oil, whatever's left in it after the massage, and you bring it home, you can recreate that experience of being really relaxed and really nurtured by putting it in your bath or using it in some other way. And I would say that one of the finest oils and the queen of all oils is lavender. So when people think of relaxation, they think of lavender. And it really is relaxing in small amounts. In large amounts, it can actually be stimulating, but lavender is unbelievable. It's an incredibly social oil, meaning it's easy to blend with other oils, but it's also one of the most cytophylactic oils, meaning cell rejuvenating. So used in a lot of burn centers in Europe. I've used it for sunburn, heat burn, and chemical burn. As a soap maker, I'm playing with lye, and it's wildly caustic, and it is unbelievable. Even if you see your skin begin to swell and the blister begin to form, if you have a really good quality lavender and you put that oil directly on that, the blister will go away. The redness, there'll be no redness, no swelling, no nothing. It's profound.
Now, is there various different ways of extracting an oil to make it more efficient? I don't know if that's the right word. Or is there a standard way of extracting an oil from a plant?
I think as aromatherapists, I think what we are most concerned with is the purest method. And so most really high quality oils are extracted through steam distillation, right? Because no matter what you use to extract your oils, there will be a taint left in that oil. And steam is nothing I'm concerned for. And I think about things like CO2 extraction, and they use that for a lot of really thick, viscous oils that can't be steam distilled. And you still have that, there's still going to be some CO2 residual in your oil. And then there's a whole group of oils called absolutes, which are extracted with chemicals. There's a lot of flowers out there that people love, like gardenia and frangipane and lilac, that can't be steam distilled. So they use chemicals to extract those odors. And so if you're buying something like a rose absolute, you just need to know that you're buying a rose that's been extracted with either benzene or acetone. Those are both commonly used for extraction, and they're both also carcinogens. So if you're really looking to gain health through the use of essential oils, you have to be extremely particular about buying only practitioner grade oils.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your website, herbsandaromatics.org. We'll get into more of this throughout the podcast, but you've grown since last we've spoke 25 years ago, and this is, from what I was able to gather on the website, it is truly a place for community people to come and learn about anything aromatic and aromatherapy. And I think it's a great resource. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's kind of exciting. I rebranded recently. It's things are changing constantly, and of course, the last time you interviewed me, may not have even had a website. And
No,
so
I think you were the center for, I don't even remember, something wellness, I think.
well,
I
I was,
I don't
yeah, the
remember.
Eclectic Institute of Aromatherapy and
Yes.
Herbal Studies for many, many, many years. So yeah, during COVID, I created an online course which can be purchased through the website, and there's a free module on there. And it's got all of the basic foundation information that really should be obtained before working with essential oils to keep you safe, so that you can work with oils in ways that are safe and effective. So I invite you all to go to the website and check out that free module of my online certification course.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link to that at when you guys see this video, the links will be up there. That was actually my next question. Certification. This is not geared just towards anyone looking for certification. This is could be geared to anyone who just wants to learn more about what's available, the basics of aromatherapy and herbs, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different information out there, and I always, I don't have the time to go and research every website I see, but some of it's good information, as I hope everybody knows by now. So not everything you read or learn online is necessarily true.
Those rumors of Reese's peanut butter cups, curing, it doesn't work.
Wow, I didn't know they cured it. I thought they caused problems actually.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So it's I think that it's helpful to know who you're learning from, how many years of experience do they have, um, and to be able to check out testimonials and see what the strengths of the teachers are that you're going to be studying from. So yes, but it's for anybody who's interested in working with essential oils, because they are in some regards a little trickier than herbs. They're easier to take on the olfactory system, right? Sometimes herbs are taste downright atrocious, whereas essential oils, like, the art is to blend them so that they're lovely. I mean, whatever you're working with should always be a joy to work with, but there's some safety stuff that you should be aware of. I think people limit themselves when they hear aromatherapy. They think of candles and bubble baths, and essential oils can help many systems of the body. And people, I find, the more I teach, the longer that I've been teaching, people are getting more and more dissatisfied with the medical system. So
Can't understand why.
people are looking for alternatives, and oils. I mean, especially if you have skin conditions and stress. I mean, the stress these days, I mean, it saddens me so much to see little people, children now suffering from, those are the years that are supposed to be carefree and joyous. And now our 6, 7, and 8 year olds are suffering from anxiety. So, and oils are a beautiful way to work through some of that stuff. So yeah, so regardless of whether you want to clinically work with essential oils, or you want to just learn how to work with oils in a safe, effective way for your family, either way, it's a great way to learn those tools.
Okay, that website again is www.herbsandaromatics.org. Again, I'll have that in the description below as well as on your screen when I put them on the screen. Now, going back to the essential oils, are there, I don't know, particular essential oils that should never be combined and used together?
Well, so there's situations. So let's say you're trying to relax. So you can put something uplifting with something sedative, but you should never put something stimulating with something sedative, right? Because then you're working against yourself. So that's not is I don't think that's is I'm not sure that's quite what you were asking, but so those are situations that you really need to put some thought into, what's going into your blend. And the other thing that I would never do is, there are some oils that they've actually, I think they've taken them off the market because they can be too harsh. But when you learn blending oils, you learn to be able to differentiate oils that work together in a smooth, synergistic way, and oils that sort of combat each other in a blend, if that makes any sense. And so The goal is to find oils that work together because they will be more synergistic. And essential oils are synergistic, meaning the total is greater than the sum of all its parts. So it's always more beneficial to blend your oils, but you have to use oils that get along. There are some oils that are just tend to be antisocial. They're very, very hard to blend with.
Antisocial oils. It's
They're
like the
like
really bad
people.
$5 perfume or cologne that you get at the airport when you're running late. Do you create your own essential oils, or do you import and then just work on the blends in particular based on a person's needs?
So yeah, so essential oils are usually made in the countries where they're grown, right? Like if they're working with fresh plant material, they have to have giant stills there. And when they're distilling plant material, it's usually 100 kilos at a time. So I have a teeny tiny still that I love to play with, and I can make beautiful floral waters. In the industry, they call them hydrosols or hydrolatas. But I don't have a still big enough to make my own essential oils, nor do I have 100 kilos of anything kicking around.
You'd want to keep anything in a kilo or a little hush hush, I would assume.
Yeah, so I purchase my essential oils, and that way it's just easier, and that way the things that are made in Madagascar, I mean, we're very lucky to live in the times we do. We get to obtain things from all over the world, and it's both a beautiful thing and a challenging thing in these days that we live in. It's really hard when certain plants grow in war torn countries, and then there's no export going on, and I've seen several things now become almost extinct and go on the banned list. You can't export rosewood anymore. It's protected, which is a good thing. So we have to really be more conscious about the just our use, and making sure we're working with things that can be.
Regrown
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and preserved. What would you say are the different ways? I mean, we talked a little bit about it. There was applying it to the skin, but the most effective way, I believe you said, is through the air, aromatics through a diffuser. Can you go over a few different types of diffusers that are available for people?
Yeah, so I will. Well, I can explain to you how some of them work, and then you can make your own decision. So there's multiple grades of diffusers. So one thing that you always have to remember is essential oils don't like heat. If you heat your essential oils, you will kill them chemically, right? So if you're trying to gain health and healing through the chemistry of your essential oils, you really need a diffuser that does not use heat. So that's nothing that's plugged in, like that uses. I'm trying to think, that uses any form of heat. So if there's like a metal plate in there that heats up, or the beautiful candle diffusers, they're lovely, but they heat your oils. Those are going to make your home aromatically pleasing, but they're not going to kill any airborne microbial. So the next up the food chain are they make units that are just little fans. They don't heat. What they do is you put your oils on a pad and they pull the oil off the pad and then disperse it through the room. So it's a step up, certainly, and it will be more beneficial than a candle diffuser, but not as good as the diffusers that actually break the molecules of the essential oils down. So there's a couple of different types of oils. There's a glass type that uses oxygen to break the molecule down. And then there's a type that vibrates about 3 million times a second. Those break the molecules down through vibration. So it becomes similar to a nebulizer. If you've ever known anybody that has respiratory infection, sometimes
Mhm.
they'll put them on a nebulizer and it looks like they're smoking a pipe, right?
Yeah,
And they
I've had to deal with one of those in the past recently.
Yeah, so that you put the medicine in the box, and the box breaks that molecule down small enough to be readily absorbed by the respiratory tract. A really good diffuser will do the same thing. You don't have to smoke it like you did a nebulizer, and it is a selling point. So if it does not say it doesn't that it breaks down the molecules, then it does not, right? Because it's a selling point. So I always tell my students, like, before you spend the money, because you can spend a lot of money on a diffuser, like, read all of the paperwork, and if it doesn't, it should tout that it breaks down the molecules.
So these are different than the ones that you would see. You would pour water in it, and then you'd add your essential oil, and they come out looking
Mist.
like a mist. Is that what you're referring to, or is this different?
Yes, they both look the exact same, and that's what makes it tricky. right? They both behave the same, but the internal components are very different. So some just send the aroma through the room, and others break the molecules down first. So be sure to read.
Are they called a certain way?
Yeah, no, and I
Like
personally
a
call them
breakup break.
yeah, no, but I'm sure that if you Googled, diffusers that break down molecules, certain companies would come up, and then you could read about them.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Because I want to add some research and later on add it on so people have a list of how they can break down and look. How do you ensure proper dilution of essential oil?
So I teach the European method of blending, which is a 2.5% dilution rate. So, and what that means, like, I'm not a math person. It's so crazy. I studied science, but like, I'm not sure how I made it through with all the math. But that means 15 drops of essential oil to 1 ounce of carrier. And that can pretty much ensure that nobody's going to get burnt. And so in the European method of blending, they suggest using between 3 and 5 oils, no less and no more, because essential oils are synergistic, right? Using
Hmm.
3 oils is not 3 times more potent than using one, it's 10 times more potent. So, but if you need a total of 15 drops of essential oil, it is very, very rare that you're going to put in 5 drops of 3 different oils, because every essential oil has a different blending factor. And it truly does take 7 drops of lavender to round out 1 drop of rose. So when I teach the European method of blending, which is a no fault method of blending, like you can't screw it up. It's pretty beautiful that way. People learn how much of each oil goes into making a round, synergistic, safe blend.
Do you ever wonder, I always sometimes they'll wonder who the first person was to come up with, I don't know, who decided to eat that cow? Who was the first, like, do you ever wonder who the first person or how that knowledge came to be of actually knowing that these plants were had in store such powerful, for lack of a better term, medicinal purposes?
I think that we used to be much more in touch with our felt sense, like somatic. Like people are really starting to finally now get into somatic healing. And just like every other animal on the planet, like when a dog doesn't feel well, it knows to go out and eat couch grass. Like animals know what they need to eat and consume to help themselves. And I think at one point we had that as well. And I think that's starting to come back a little. But I know that Cleopatra. They say Cleopatra used to soak her sails in rose oil so that Mark Antony could smell her coming across the ocean.
Like, he could smell her coming a mile away.
Yeah. So and she used to actually have people. She would have smoke incense fanned into her hair. So aroma has been a part of civilization for probably as long as civilization.
All right. Now, I'm going to go into just a couple of ailments, or not ailments, issues that maybe you'd be able to recommend a generic, what tends to work for, as a good standby, kind of like the bare aspirin, if you will, of I have a headache, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. So, as we're talking about aromatherapy, first thing that comes to mind, it's all over the place right now, stress and anxiety. You already mentioned that lavender is very good for that. What other essential oils could alleviate or play a beneficial role in alleviating stress and anxiety?
I think one of the things that I'm seeing people have great success with is vetiver. It's an oil from a root of a grass. For years, it's been used on animals for breaking stallions, horses they couldn't get near. If they could get the oil on them, it would calm them enough. I've had friends use them on their dogs. But now I'm seeing people really gaining a lot of benefit with their ADHD children. Children who are hyperactive
Hmm.
and strung out in that way. So it's incredibly sedative and calming. And regardless of whether it's a physical thing like ADHD or just a mental thing like anxiety, I think it's another really, really great oil.
Okay. Now, I'm having a heck of a time sleeping at night. What could you recommend that might take the edge off a little bit, maybe relax a little more?
Well, there's an herb out there, and they also make it into an essential oil called valerian. And, valerian is what Valium was fashioned after.
Okay.
So I would suggest both internally and maybe in a diffuser. But there's a
You
little
said that was called valerian?
valerian.
All right. What about for boosting energy and focus? I've got this massive test I need to kind of focus and get psyched about.
It's so interesting. I kind of use that as an example of the lock and key response. So if you make yourself up a really good blend and you study while breathing in that blend, you get that going in a diffuser, and
Hmm.
you take that blend into that exam with you, you can, and you come to a question that you can't remember, you can smell that blend and it should help, unlock all of that information that
I
was,
could just see how that would look to the teacher as you're sitting there writing, and they're like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
"Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Nothing. Nothing."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but rosemary is known for remembrance, and it is stimulating. All of those, I call them electric oils, but the peppermint, the rosemary, the eucalyptus, those are all very stimulating oils.
Okay. And what about for skin care or hair care?
So for skincare, I would absolutely, right. The lavender is the like one of the most cytophylactic, cell rejuvenating oils, along with another oil called helichrysum. Some people call it immortelle, some people call it everlasting, but its botanical name is helichrysum. So those two oils are second to none as far as cell rejuvenating. As far as hair goes, so hair, I think even more about the carrier. A carrier of sesame is specific for hair and nails. So you could make a blend for your hair, and depending upon what you want for your hair. Again, rosemary is supposed to be profound for hair growth, as is cedar wood is supposed to be helpful. And of course, lavender would be excellent because of the cell rejuvenating properties. And if you put those in a carrier of sesame, then it would add to the benefit of your blend.
Okay. Now, how would you or how could someone ensure the quality and purity of their essential oil? So let's say someone goes to a local, I don't know, spa where they sell or they find these at a retail store and they're still kind of learning the process. Is there a way they can determine if the what they're about to purchase is of solid quality to yield the results they'd like to get?
Yeah, so that's like the hardest question you could possibly ask me
I'm sorry. I'm
because
sorry.
you know what it is? There's no governing body over essential oils. And not that I ever want more regulations put on anything by the government. But, part of the challenge here in the United States is, aromatherapy began in the hospitals, in the labs and in the hospitals in Europe. And so, because of that, the quality of their oils started at the very highest. And they also are appreciated for their work in those areas, right? There's some, anyway. So, but in this country, it began as a fad, and because of that, the quality of the oils has reflected that, and so it's really hard to find quality oils. Period. So I have just a handful that I really respect, and I just stick with those. And if you do that, if you can be really particular, especially in the early part of your relationship with essential oils, then you will train your nose to smell quality. Then when you don't smell quality, it will stand out to you. And so I do that with my students in the classroom. I have everybody bring in all their oils from home, and so everybody will put their lavender on the table and we'll compare all the different grades of lavender. And when you have them side by side, it's pretty clear. But when you don't have that side by side, you have to really stick with practitioner grade companies and wait until your olfactory system gets educated enough to be able to discern good quality from poor quality. I'm sorry to say.
No, it's understandable. What trends or developments in aromatherapy do you think would be the most, or that you think would be the most excited about?
But I read about other countries working with essential oils in ways that we haven't even tapped into here in the United States. And there's just so many benefits to the olfactory system. They use essential oils and aromatherapy in therapy sessions in Europe. They even have facilities where people who can't follow the spoken word, who are so developmentally delayed, they can't follow the spoken word. have places where they live where they release a particular aroma every morning at 7, and these people know that it's time to get up. And then they release another aroma an hour later, and they know it's time to go down for breakfast. We haven't even
That's
begun.
called bacon, right?
Yeah. Bacon and coffee.
Yeah.
So we haven't even begun to work with oils on that level here. It's unfortunate. I have a student who's a nurse at Mass General, and she's working hard to try to bridge the worlds, and there's just so much that we are taking for granted. And I think the other thing that they're really starting to look at is, now that we've come to the end of antibiotics, and we really are right there, it's terrifying. But what they've learned is that bacteria cannot become resistant to essential oils. So I think we're going to see a lot
Well, I
more.
would think that would make sense because there are some other life forms that will not go near a particular plant. If it's not going to go by the plant, gee, there's an idea. Maybe there's a reason why. Let's take a look at that.
They're too complex. They're too complex for the bacteria to get around. And even though we think we're clever and we just keep making stronger and stronger antibiotics, the bacteria are more clever.
And the reasons why you don't see the big pharmaceuticals go into that is because you can't patent a plant. So
Right.
they're SOL. Their whole premise of wanting to make money based on, genetically making something just is not going to be as good as the real thing. So if there's something, why we talked a little bit about this before we started going on the show, or before we started recording, that the whole concept of medicinal marijuana and cannabis took as long as it did because, I mean, that was our main cash crop years and years and years ago. And it was being used for what it was being used for back then, until they realized, oh, we can't make any money from this because it's growing and accruing naturally in nature. So clearly that's the area to look for and to look at for other things like that. If what they're making is no longer working, hey, this plant still repels that stuff. You might want to take a closer look at that. So that's
That's gonna be very exciting. Science is gonna run with it. It'll also be terrifying because we have this terrible tendency, if we find something that works, we tend to use it up. And that is, my concern about the sustainability of the plants and the oils, really.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. We only have about 15 minutes left or so, and I wanted to get a little bit into, because aromatherapy, I think, is always fascinating. But maybe you can give me the specific or the proper way to address the next topic, which was more or less on the herbs side of things. Is that called herbology? Okay, just wanted to make sure I'm not making up a word. Tell me a little bit about the relationship between herbs and the florals.
The florals or the oils?
The oils, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so I think they walk hand in hand. And I say to my students all the time, whether you study essential oils first or you study herbs first, the other will enhance your product. So it's great to be able to blend essential oils into a carrier, but how much more potent would that product be if your carrier was an herbal infused oil, right? So we can take every product to the next level by knowing both sides of that coin. So I can make a beautiful infused oil, but how much more potent would that St. John's wort oil be for pain if I blended birch into it, and some of those beautiful circulatory oils like juniper and black pepper, that are also analgesic, right? We can take the foundation of herbs and then build on top of it. So I think that if you know both, you will be able to create things on multiple levels. And it's also helpful. Sometimes people need something internally. So it's really helpful to know which herbs are helpful for each organ systems.
Turmeric is I don't know if that would count as a plant, a root, or an herb, but I know that turmeric is really good as a anti-inflammatory. And I would get some turmeric shots every now and then from the local juice bar. And aside from my lips turning like a carrot color, you feel the difference. And it doesn't take very long, and you get used to the taste. But it's something like that. Is that classified as a plant, or is that classified as an herb?
They call it an herb. I mean, it's a root. So yeah, so they call it an herb, and it's a great herb. It's incredibly anti-inflammatory, and usually they put it with a little black pepper as a, yeah, yeah. You have to have that little boost, that little kick from the
Kick.
black pepper. Yeah, and
Or
then
ginger.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can, I've had people go onto capsules of that and be able to not have back surgery. I mean, it's an incredible herb.
Cinnamon too is great for it has the blood sugar regulation principle that I have been really following a lot of. And I remember cinnamon capsules was a thing. And are there, if you could give the top 5 herbs that people should keep on hand in one form or another for what would be your top 5 must-have herbs?
So, this is, boy, you get some tough ones. So it depends upon what you're like. I
I've
believe,
grown over the last 25 years.
yeah, I think it depends upon like where your weak link is. If you have, problems with your respiratory and every time you get sick, it falls into your lungs, or or if you're elderly and frail, so, but I will say this, like echinacea is, a superstar and will absolutely help you from, it will save you from catching something if you can take it early enough. But something like nettle, stinging nettle, is high in almost every vitamin and mineral, as is dandelion. I mean, dandelion's not even indigenous to this continent, but the pilgrims knew how important it was and they brought it. And
And
I
now
love
they're everywhere.
everywhere. And, I love what Rosemary said. She said, if you eat dandelion every day, nothing will be able to kill you either. So that's really true. And then there are people who love yarrow. Yarrow is an amazing herb. The list with herbs, it's really hard. I look at something as simple as burdock root, right? It's incredible for blood sugar balancing, super strengthening to the liver, really helpful for so many things. And it's so nutritious and it's so easy to access and it's delicious. You can put it in your soups and stews. Those are the sorts of things. Like if we all ate nettle regularly and we all ate burdock regularly, we would all be a whole lot healthier. And so I think about this is what I've taken to saying because of the medical system is so challenged that if you're healthy, stay healthy. And if you're not healthy, get healthy. So these are the herbs that will keep us healthy. But I also have to put a shout out there to reishi mushroom. All of the medicinal mushrooms, I mean, the new statistics of cancer are one of 2 women and 1 of 3 men. Because of our environment, there's no way we're going to get around that disease. And I don't know anybody that hasn't been touched by it. All of the medicinal mushrooms are unbelievable anti-cancer, anti-tumor. So those are things I take regularly.
Okay. Now, could you give us your top 5 must-haves essential oils on your shelf?
Those are a little easier. So yes, of course, lavender. So there's a couple of oils. I honestly believe that whether you are interested in alternative methods of healing or not, they should be in your medicine chest just like band-aids are. And so lavender would be one because of its cytophylactic properties. It's so good for burns and just any sort of, it'll just heal the skin so quickly as well as it's stress reducing. I think that everyone should have a bottle of tea tree. It is antiseptic, antifungal, antiviral, anti everything, right? So sometimes if I get a little something, a little skin something, I go, what is that? Doesn't matter. Tea tree will take care of it, right? And it's really drying, right? I've given it to people whose children have lice. Now like head lice is becoming like a super bug. Nothing kills it.
Hmm.
Tea tree will kill it. I think that peppermint is an excellent oil to have. It is the premier oil for headaches. It is excellent for congestion. It also is the premier oil for irritable bowel syndrome. So any kind of digestive issues. So I like the oils that cover a huge range of challenges and that are not wildly expensive. I think that we can attain everything that we need without having to break the bank. And blue chamomile, I have to say, I have never seen anything as anti-inflammatory as blue chamomile in my life. I have used it so many times. Not last summer, but the summer before, I broke my elbow, and and I ignored it for a week before I got an X-ray, and then they told me I needed 5 pins and a plate. Right?
Well, clearly it wasn't going to heal on its own, Linda. I
I
mean,
gave it a week. I tried my best, but I have to say, I applied blue chamomile from like here to here. and there was no bruising.
Well,
And so
that's
we
good.
got to here, and then it was purple, right? The blood had to go somewhere. But blue chamomile is so anti-inflammatory that it will, if you can get to it, the second it happens, there'll be no bruising, no swelling. I've even had aches underneath my kneecaps, and I think, well, what's the chances blue chamomile can get in there and kick that out? And sure enough, if I put it on there, it takes all the inflammation out. So if you're suffering from aches and pains like that, blue chamomile is the best.
The best. If you want more information, Linda's website, it's the Herbs and Aromatics, www.herbsandaromatics.org. Foundation, or the organization, is called Herbs and Aromatics, and they are based in Massachusetts. What town in Massachusetts are you
I'm
in?
in Northampton now. I migrated.
Northampton. Northampton, which is actually, that's in the western part? Or
Yes.
is, yeah, the western part of the state now. And you can reach her at herbsandaromatics@gmail.com. Is that correct? Anything you could possibly want to know, you can discover, I believe, at this website. Sign up for the free module that was there. If you want to learn a little bit more, delve into some of the classes there. Can you quickly go over what it might cost aside from the free module, what people can look at getting involved if they want to get some certification or learn more about it? What kind of investment could they plan on?
So yeah, so the modules are all sold separately, and they range from 20 to 35, I think. And so it really depends upon, like, I find a lot of people are sort of drawn to the areas of their health that they need. You know, some people, it's about what your weak link is. You know, people are always looking for something. So yeah, and then there's a discount if you purchase the whole course.
Oh,
And
great.
every one of the modules comes with games. There's a bunch of gamifications that helps to cement in the knowledge that you just learned. So trying to keep it fun and upbeat.
Oh, that's good. And also, it also helps learning, no doubt. Well, Linda, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great to see you again after 25 years. We'll have you on again. Maybe we can find a way of talking about some of your other. Are you a little off topic, and we don't have to get into it, but are you still practicing the palmistry?
Yeah, I've got some certification courses coming up, so that would be fun.
All right, so we'll have to. I don't know how we do it this way. I mean, could you tell from here? I'm not sure, but it would be interesting to see. Hold on, let me see. But we'll definitely have you on again, and we'll talk about that. Thank you so much for joining. I want to again thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. If you like the show and you want to like and subscribe to the podcast, please do hit the bell notification, and that way you'll be informed the next time a new episode drops on YouTube. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next week.